representative. I am excited to share my top 10 albums of the year with you. Thank you for giving me a click. You've noticed if you follow my channel that I'm not very active on here. So to have you still clicking on my video to take an interest in my favorite albums of the year, that means a lot to me. I have been talking about music still, and I moved over to TikTok. I've mentioned it in previous videos, but if you haven't seen me for a bit, yeah, I'm doing little mini album reviews on TikTok. That's linked in the description if you do want to see what I'm up to over there. But for now, we have my top 10 albums to go over, and I have a whole bunch of honorable mentions that I wanted to briefly mention as well. So yeah, we got a big list here of honorable mentions. Strong albums. Definitely wanted to give them a little shout out. 2 early releases from UK bands, both new discoveries for me. I believe both of them jumped out to me just based off of their covers. Spectre, really cool stuff. Reminds me of the band The Vaccines. And Palace with Shoals, a very pleasant form of alternative rock. Bad Sons with Apocalypse Whenever, polished alt pop. These guys are very dependable. Our Lady Peace, Spiritual Machines 2. They really surprised me this year with some really great songs on their latest album. For the pop fans, Foxes with The Kick. Great stuff here. Sister Ray was top 100 of the year for me in 2021. Joywave's latest album, Cleanse, pretty straightforward, but they're all good. White Lies, As I Try Not to Fall Apart. We got a few singles on here. Am I Really Going to Die? As I Try Not to Fall Apart. I Don't Want to Go to Mars. That I'd say, you know, are up there with some of their best. The rest of the album holds strong. Belmont, Aftermath, this heavy pop punk band. If you have not caught on to Belmont yet and you're into the pop punk scene, get on board. The Regrets, Further Joy, female-led group with a lot of really nice stuff. Another new discovery for me this year, Short Stack, Maybe There's No Tomorrow. Again, some heavy-leaning pop punk music, a little bit cheesy at times, I guess you could say, but an undeniably fun time. And some pretty powerful stuff here as well. Now, the band Spanish Love Songs released Brave Faces, etc. This is an album of reworkings of their 2020 album, Brave Faces, everyone. That album, you know, was cool, but it didn't knock me off my feet. But I think these reworkings really shed a different light on the songs. And you'll be seeing one of these on my top 100 of the year. On the heavier side of things, Obsidian, the latest album from Northlane. Clockwork was a high song on my top 100 of last year. And this whole album is very strong. Let's Eat Grandma, Two Ribbons. I was very close to putting this album onto my top 10. Very elegant synth pop, Happy New Year and Levitation. Both singles, both gonna be on my top 100. And if this whole album was just like those two songs, there's no doubt this would be a top 10 of the year. But ultimately, these songs are very pleasant, very warm, but just not enough of that energy for me. Now, Mansionaire, Happiness Guaranteed. This band's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, really electronic leanings, but very cool stuff. And if you haven't heard of this group, you should definitely try them out. The latest album from Everything, Raw Data Feel, big album, and it's the first album from them since I got into them after their 2015 album, Get to Heaven. That did not give me a top 100 of the year, but it's still some really creative stuff, lots of cool discoveries here, and a very worthy addition to their discography. Bay Ledge's Ritual, very easygoing, kind of acoustic-based stuff. Usually this type of music, while easy listening and pleasant, just doesn't have enough oomph for me, but he manages to really keep me interested in this album with some really touching melodies. Judah and the Lion, Revival. You got a song here that's going to be in my top 20 of the year. I'm not going to let you know which one, though, and the rest of the album holds up. The Rex, Sonder, my favorite album from this band that I've never actually been that big of a fan of, but after this album, I'm much more excited about them, and they've got a top 10 of the year on this one. Vance Joy, what can I say? I'm a sucker for this acoustic pop of his. In Our Own Sweet Time, his latest album, really impressed me with some amazing singles. And this is just some feel-good music right here. The latest from Coheed and Cambria, Vaxis 2, A Window of the Waking Mind. They killed it here. Another one that was really close to making my top 10. The self-titled album from Rain City Drive, lots of fun to be had with this if you're into the progressive leaning rock sound with the big poppy melodies, great clean vocals. This band nails it. My first album this year with Def Havana, The Present is a Foreign Land. Big sound, great rock energy, lots of meaning to this stuff. Keen Princess really impressed me with Hold On Baby, her latest album. I was very surprised with some of the emotional reward in some of these songs, and one of them will be landed on my top 100. Then we have Tiny Moving Parts, their self-titled album, a math rock leaning group that is usually a little bit too complex for me, but this new album comes through with some real melodic substance. And again, we got ourselves a top 100 here. No denying Being Funny in a Foreign Language, the latest from the 1975, is a very nice listen. The music, not really my type of stuff overall. But that being said, it's still really nice stuff that I couldn't let slip past my honorable mentions. And finally, a recent release from Anna of the North. I believe she's from Norway. Whatever the case, her latest album, Crazy Life, is some super sweet pop. She is an absolute delight. Also, I just realized I totally forgot to add the latest album from Silver Sun Pickups to my honorable mentions, Physical Thrills. I had this one on my top 10, probably why I didn't end up putting it onto my honorable mentions, but it ended up just slipping off at the last minute. This album is a massively solid showing from Silver Sun, though there's not really that one song on it that I really fell in love with. But it's a smooth as hell album, good flow, especially in the first few tracks. And it just continues to show why this band is still around and still relevant so many years into their career. Okay, now we got those out of the way, we can finally dive in to the top 10. Without further ado, let's kick it off. Yeah, Simple Plan. You might be thinking, what the hell is Simple Plan doing on a top 10 albums of the year list in 2022? Believe me, I didn't want to put this album on my top 10. I've got plenty other albums this year that I find more elegant, sophisticated, mature. But when it comes down to it, I'm looking for the music that I guess suits my vibe the most. And I'm a pop rock guy. I like the energetic, upbeat, catchy songs. And that's what this album is all about. I was never even a diehard Simple Plan fan back in the day. I liked their singles, but I never listened to any of their albums. I still haven't. But when this came out, I was like, yeah, I gotta jump on board, see what they're doing in 2022. And they're clearly not trying to go for a very mature sound here. They're just bringing out some fun, kind of cheesy pop rock. But fortunately for a listener like myself, I'm not digging into the lyrics. I'm just here for a good time, and they're giving that to me here. The single The Antidote has a massive hit to it. Congratulations is an absolute belter, really fun sing-along. And the closing song too, song that deals with divorce, comes through with a huge chorus and yeah, some big emotion. These songs are easy to enjoy. And yeah, while this isn't an album I'm really proud of putting forth as one of my favorites of the year, I'd be lying to myself if I didn't include it. What can I say? I like this kind of stuff, and it's my number 10 album of the year. Take it or leave it. Yeah, Dayglow, this artist really blew up several years back with the viral hit Can I Call You Tonight, a song that I did not even catch any wind of, but I caught him with the album after that, had some good times with that one, and now my second album with him here has really cemented him as much more than just a one-hit wonder. Very sweet synth pop. He's a young artist, and you can feel his youthfulness in his performance. While this album has a wonderful synth pop warmth to it, it's also very bouncy and catchy and upbeat, pleases me, comforts me, while at the same time keeping me energized and engaged. The song Someone Else is the biggest takeaway. It's going to be making my top 100, but there's plenty to take away from this album. I really recommend it. State Champs, Kings of the New Age. Yeah, I would not expect I'd be putting a State Champs album on my top 10 of the year, at least a few years ago, because State Champs has never been that big of a deal for me. I've never really been a huge fan of any of their albums up until this one. They're just going all out here. Lots of energy, lots of aggression. They're best melodies yet. And there are two songs on this album that I could not get enough of this year. And those are Eventually and Some Minds Don't Change. Both landed on my top 100. One of them is in my top 10, but you'll have to wait for that video to find out which one. Yeah, Dayseeker Dark Sun, a pretty recent release. Not the only recent release on this top 10. We've had some of the best albums of the year released in the fall. This album I find to just be a very complete package. It has an intention and the songs all work together to form a powerful narrative on, I don't know, loss. This album came after the death of the lead singer Roy Rodriguez's father, and there is a lot of heartache within this music. They're a heavy band, but they're leaning into the synth wave kind of stuff on this, not going too hard. They craft some very big melodies, and it can be quite breathtaking. Neon Grave and Without Me both making my top 100. Now, this one you probably haven't heard of, Jordan Clausen, Glossolalia. He is a Vancouver artist, my home city, and I have, from pretty much the moment I first heard Jordan Clausen, I've compared him, or I've called him, Vancouver's Sufjan Stevens. The man is just a brilliant singer-songwriter. His vocals are incredible. You know, I'm comparing him to Sufjan Stevens. That's big praise in my mind. And this album here, man, it's just gorgeous stuff. When it came out in the spring, it was the best album I had heard at that point in the year. But this album it's very calm. I talk about liking pop rock, energetic stuff, and this is far from it. So for an album like this to make my top 10 of the year, that's even more impressive because it's not following the traits of the typical music that I go towards. I'm an emotional listener though at the end of it all, and there's plenty of emotion within these songs, and I need those melodies, and he's got that throughout as well. The singles Milk and Honey and Nico are the two biggest catches of the album, but they're kind of in that way the more surface level songs as well. Whereas if you really dive into the rest of this album, I think there's just a lot of reward to be found within each of these songs. So Jordan Clausen, absolutely gorgeous album, and I'm honored to have you on my top 10. Yep, kicking off my top 5, the band Floor with Future Shine. Not many bands I see on Fueled by Ramen anymore, but this album is a Fueled by Ramen release. Fun to note. And they're just such a fun time. Synthy, rock music, light, sweet vocals. The song Big Shot is a top 100 of the year. Take It Back Home was very close to making my top 100. Song like that just is the type of stargazing, look out at the sky song that really can induce that big sigh that I'm all about. Lots of catchy punch in songs like Clouds and Come Over Now. Gotta Do Something has a real get off your feet energy to it. Play Along is a big standout as well. Yeah, this album holds strong from start to finish. Yep, album number 4, The Hunna, their self-titled album. This is a UK rock band that you should definitely have on your radar. This is their best album yet. Their last album was really iffy. Just reviewed this one on my TikTok if you want to see some more in-depth details on my thoughts, but I'll just say that they've completely redeemed themselves after their last album. They're going for just a much more organic sound. This is the type of album that had me looking up interviews of the band to see what were their thoughts behind this, and they said that, you know, this is the sound that they wanted. They feel like it's a self-titled album because they feel like this really is their sound. They found their sound, and I really totally feel that. They really knock it out of the park, man. Find a Way Out, Other Side, Sold My Soul. Those are the 3 big ones for me. None of them are singles, which is so great. I love it. 3 deep cuts that I find are the best of the album. 2 of those will be making my top 100. I'm tired of spoiling the list. You'll have to check it out if you want to see which ones make the list. But yeah, bravo, The Hunna. I am so happy with this album. My third favorite album of the year, this one goes all the way back to last December. Like Pacific, Control My Sanity, anything that comes out in December is eligible to be on the year-end lists for the following year. And yeah, this album came out all the way back on December 3rd. So one of the first albums I listened to that would be eligible for the best of 2022. And it has held strong all year to make it to my number 3. It's one of those albums that has only grown on me over time. I remember when I first reviewed it, I was saying how, they're all really strong songs, but none of them have that sing-along from start to finish pull to them, but not the case. Ketamine Jesus, Love Them and Leave Them, those first two songs absolutely knock it out of the park. And they just kept popping up over and over again this year, and I'm just like, oh my God, I was a little bit off with these songs. These are definitely having me singing along right from start to finish. And really, it's a 10-track album that just does not let up. I'd say Fail to Speak is another massive highlight, but really all these songs have a little spark to them. And this Canadian band, they're not too well known. Not even 100,000 monthly listeners. Get on board with Like Pacific. Okay, the Fame Talk Talk. This is a summer release, and it was the album to beat until my number 1 album came around. We'll get to that in a second. But the Fame, man, this band was just blowing me away with the singles leading up to it. Ease My Mind, The Hills, I believe The Alchemist was a single, all just wonderful songs. And the song Me Because of You. Watch out for this one. High on my top 100 of the year. I've been absolutely addicted to that song this year. And then they dropped the album. Oh, and I forgot the single Era, The Closer, another one that's going to be really high up on my top 100. Absolutely epic song. But yeah, then they dropped the album, and it just, after you hear 5 singles that are all so good, you can only expect more goodness, and they held up. This album is really a stunner. It's my first full album with the band, actually, and I have gone and spent a little bit of time with their last album, State of Mind from 2019, which had a bit more of a, I don't know, almost stadium rock leaning sound, little traces even of like Imagine Dragons. I'm like, oh, I'm not loving some of that direction we're leaning in there, and I'm really happy with where they have headed with this new album. It's very poppy, still got the stadium energy to it in a way, but I find it maybe a bit sharper. The vocals are just glorious. The sing-along energy is wild. There's a lot of emotion here, especially on Era. My God, I can't say enough about that song. And they get a little bit gritty too. I love Flowers for bringing in some of that rock edge, and I can't recommend this album enough. So close to being my number 1 album of the year, but then this one came along. Slowly, Slowly, Daisy Chain. Now, this is another band like the Fame that was putting out some very promising singles leading up to it. So I had high hopes. Again, I just reviewed this on my TikTok if you want to check it out, because it just came out in November here, just like The Hunna and Dayseeker. It's one of the most recent albums of my year. So recency bias aside, I think I can safely say this is the best album of my 2022. Blueprint was a single from 2021 that if I heard it, I didn't spend enough time with it because, man, it's a brilliant song. And it's just a phenomenal showing of how sharp and aggressive and creative this band can be. How much they know how to work a song and work not only a chorus, but the verses leading up to that chorus. Their singer is like my new favorite. He is just so good with his lyrical pull. I find is really shown on Blueprint, and it's shown throughout this album. This way he has of really sparking some excitement in me with all of his words. A great wordplay is one thing I can say about this album. Great wordplay. Forget You, Nothing On, other really promising singles, but it was the summer single Daisy Chain that was the one that really swept me off my feet and brought this band to the forefront of my radar. That is a song that, again, gonna be high on my top 100. And then, yeah, we get the album here, and it's just so good. So good. I find they are at their best when they keep it energetic and heavier, more aggressive. They got a couple slow songs here, The Closer, Paper Mache, and Medicine, and they just don't have that bite to them, but they are part of the album experience, and they're both very respectable songs. God is also a slow one. They just put out a video for this one recently, sat down with that video, and it gave me a whole nother perspective on the song. I would not have chosen that song as a single. It's the longest song on the album, but the video they made for it is just a true showing of what a video can do for a song, and it really opened my eyes to the song's impact. Long Shot was another single as well leading up to the album that just has so much of that punch to it. So damn catchy. And then we get two deep cuts here with Achilles Heel and Hold My Breath, the back-to-back mid-album tracks that just knocked me off my feet, both of those songs. If it wasn't for those two absolute stunners, this would probably not be my album of the year. But right in the middle of these great singles and some more album complimentary material, we have these absolute stunners there that, again, just are wonderful examples of how sharp and wildly exciting this band can be. One of those songs in Achilles Heel and Hold My Breath will be making my top 100. Again, check it out if you wanna see which one. Yeah, that's it. That's my top 10 albums of the year. Thank you so much for giving this a click. It really means a lot to a small YouTuber like myself. I'm not nearly as consistent on YouTube as I was a year ago. Try not to take things too seriously here. I just want to share my favorite music, but it can be hard as a creator doing this kind of stuff when it's like, who cares, man? So for you to sit down here and listen to me talk about my favorite music, it really does mean a lot. I will have my top 10 EPs of the year coming up soon. I'm also gonna do a video on my top 10 songs of the year. Love a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Hit the subscribe for more alternative content, and love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what your favorite albums of the year were. Let me know what you thought of my favorite albums here. Love to chat. I'll see you next time.